Welcome to Rock DIY, or Do It You. If you do it, then it's all you. I live in a very humid environment and it rains quite a bit year round. I'm gonna walk through some steps that can be taken to treat your tools that may be corroded because of the environment or the high humidity. I'll walk through the steps for removing rust and then also go through the steps in treating your tools in order to prevent future rust. This is a set of needle nose pliers that I've had between 12 and 15 years that got quite corroded. I soaked them tip down in a container of crud cutter, a must for rust, and it did a pretty good job, and you can see the line where it actually did its job. This is what they look like after soaking them for an hour. I intentionally didn't use a wire brush on these needle nose prior to soaking them in the crud cutter, intentionally just because I wanted to see what it would actually do without using a wire brush first. I do recommend using a wire brush on any tool that's got rust on it before using a dissolver or inhibitor. I then chose not to remove the handles from the needle nose pliers and soaked them tip down in a soda bottle up to just before where the grips began. Even if you use a rust preventative to restore your tools, and even after cleaning the preventative off, if you live in a very humid or rainy area, your tool, unless you treat it with some kind of protective coating, it will rust almost immediately afterwards. If you do use a rust dissolver or an inhibitor, I do recommend that as soon as you get an inhibitor or dissolver off, to use a wire brush to clean it up before you take the next step. I would also recommend that, if possible, that if you have grips on your tools, if you can easily remove them, to remove them. But if they're difficult to remove, more than likely if you do get them off, you will probably damage them and have a difficult time with them staying on after the fact. I'm going to use some painter's tape to tape off the handles before I take the next step. Now that I have the handles taped off, I'm going to go ahead and use a clear coat exterior enamel and basically put it on very lightly. And then after I put it on, this is fast drying, I'm going to continue to move the handles just to prevent it from seizing up. And by spraying this on, it'll help prevent them from rusting. How long it'll last is dependent on how often you use them, how much you beat them up before they start rusting again. I do highly recommend that just prior to putting the enamel on the metal portion of the needle nose pliers, that you use a wire brush and get everywhere that you can with the wire brush in order to give the enamel a good surface to adhere to. Use a clean, lint-free cloth to wipe down the pliers after you use the wire brush, or you can use an air compressor to help remove anything that may be loose on the pliers. Last step that you can take, it's not 100% required, but if you want to retain the grip that the inside of the needle nose provide, and also the cutting edge of the side cutting blades, you can put some tape on them, or you can just take some Elmer's glue, put it on, let it dry, and then after you spray your enamel and that dries, then you can just remove the Elmer's glue or the tape. Continue to move them to prevent the enamel from drying, you want to make sure that you don't close them up completely, where you have different parts touching, because then you're just removing the enamel. But if you keep them moving until the enamel dries, it'll be much better. When you do put the clear coat enamel on, you do want to make sure that you get the enamel everywhere your first attempt at putting a light coat, because you do want to avoid putting too many coats on the tool, or it's just going to create problems with the movement of the tool. It's not the end of the world if you're not able to continue to move a tool that has multiple moving parts after you spray it with the enamel. The coat's so thin that it's not going to make that much difference. You can break that coating, and then once you know for sure that your tool is completely dry and you've broke it free from any enamel that's holding it in place, you can put some 3-in-1 oil on it and then work it a little bit, and it'll be fine. It's hard to tell in this picture, but this is the completed project after applying 2 coats of clear enamel to the needle nose pliers. And this will probably last quite a while, but that's also very dependent on how often they are used. But it could be anywhere from 5 to 10 years before they'll start corroding again or getting rust. Thanks for watching the video. I truly appreciate it. I hope this video motivates you to take on future DIY projects. There's nothing more satisfying than completing a project on your own. Please like, comment, or subscribe. Thanks again.